We must see through it that we put down our fighting gears and we put down our boxing gloves and we put down the bigotry in our hearts and the different levels of ethnic sentiments and see how we can ordinarily function as a people. Because at the heart of our situation, at the heart of our current reality as Nigerians, is the fact that we can live together. Is the fact that there's nothing that has shown that we ordinarily cannot live together. And one of the examples I get to give here is the fact that our sons and daughters get to travel abroad. They travel with little or no connection. All they do is get a visa, get a flight ticket, probably get a reservation or get a housing contract from wherever they are, and then they fly to those places or they travel to those countries they so desire to go, whether for study or for work or for greener pasture or just for vacation, with little or no fear as it concerns the fact that they might be met with racial discrimination or you might want to say low-key tribalism. And they go to those places, they visit these countries of their choice, they go to these schools, they get opportunities they ordinarily would not get in Nigeria or in Africa, and then they succeed. They get scholarships, they get grants, they make friends, they make new acquaintances, they meet new people, they change their life by just taking a little bag, putting a few stuff with their certificates or sometimes with nothing, head to new land, just like Tracy Chapman's FASCA, with the desire and the hope that something new can come out. And most of the times, against all human limitations and against all racial discrimination, they survive. They make sense of their existence. They don't face the level of sentiments and reservations and the things they get to face back home, the things we get to face and the things we get to cause back home. Doesn't that tell us something? Doesn't that tell us that we need to work on a whole lot of things within ourselves? Doesn't that tell us that we ordinarily need to look at our lives and look at our lives squarely? Tribalism is a thing we all have to deal with as Nigerians, because if we look at the situation around us, you get to see the effect of tribalism and the way we've come to relate to this on different fronts of our life. You get to see this from different perspectives, and it makes sense if we ordinarily come together and tell ourselves that a thing like this ordinarily should be given the much needed attention it should be given, as opposed to we just trying to ignore it and do as if it doesn't exist. Because it exists, it gets to be seen on different fronts, from things like state of origin, from things like local government of origin, from things like what's your surname, from things like where's your father from things like go back to your local government of origin to get what you really need, go back to your local government of origin to get to apply for a federal job, go back to your state of origin to get to apply for the different things you ordinarily can apply for as a Nigerian from almost anywhere as a citizen of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. But no, you're almost always sent back to your tribe, so to say. You're almost sent back to where you belong. And people continue to ask the question, at what point can we really say we are Nigerians? At what point can we freely say, at this point, we are Nigerians? I don't have the answer to that question. Dike attempts to answer the question in one of his renditions. Take a listen.
Planes falling from the air, bombs exploding here and there, guns, spitting, knives, slitting, ghostly towns with dead men walking, children crying in the night, tires burning pungent, bright, all the land adrifting chaos as the bad becomes the worse. Yet someone somewhere crying, God, that he come and do his word, send his lightning and his thunder, rip this evil cloud asunder. But the noxious, poisonous tree has its roots in you and me, draws its sap from you and me, while we fit this misery. Someone blames it on the devil. But I've never seen the devil with his pocket full of money meant for everybody, hid beneath the sanctity of a fake integrity. It was you who took a machete, smoked Igbo and went to market, cut the throats of little children for what crime they were not Muslim. And it was me who picked the gauntlet, high on glue and burning hate, stopped a car and picked out Muslims, burned them all to avenge Christians. It was you who put a bomb on, blew a hole in our nation. It was me who put a suit on, went to work and stole the nation. It was you who took my hand. It was us hand in hand, blowing, stealing, bombing, looting. There's no devil in this thing. Just a bunch of little people thinking they can devour other people, steal their peace and keep their own, take their lives and keep their own, keep their land and burn the country when that land is in that country. Thoughtless, mindless, careless people, nothing else, just we the people. So the devil, if he's there, has no need to work hard here. You and me can handle this. You and me can wreck all this. So to God, if you're there, there's no need to come down here. You and me can handle this. You and me can save all this.
That's the closest we could get to ordinarily understand the effect of tribalism on a space like Nigeria. That's the closest you can ordinarily get. But if I just say that and I keep quiet, it would be a lie, because we also have other ways in which we come to see the effect of tribalism in our day-to-day encounters, in our current reality as a people, as Nigerians, so to say.
If a white man turned and called me nigger, my blood would boil in righteous anger, for the evil of discrimination is clearly established when a white man tries to treat me like rubbish. But if Hausas say Igbos are greedy and crude, and Igbos say Hausas are haughty and rude, and Ijo says Ishekiri must die today, and Ezza tells Ezilo there is no other way. If Yorubas declare it is owl or nothing, and we use federal character to share everything, so before you can even smile and tell me welcome, you must first ask me where my father is from. If those who were settlers but now indigents say those who are settlers can't become indigents, while the Constitution says we are all citizens, local governments keep issuing certificates of origin. If my brother passed JAMB but can't go to uni because he is Tiv and he's not Kanuri, and UniMaid has a quota for its catchment area, so he must go back to Benue or wait one more year. If it's okay to say it's not okay to marry someone just because they are Kalabari and that every tribe should have its own side, are we not then practicing apartheid? If you cannot buy land unless you're a native, and cannot find work unless you're a native, and cannot feel safe unless you're a native, how can we then say we're not primitive? Yet, you go to London and get their passport, then settle wherever, however you want. You stand there and fight for equality, but come back and start to use ethnicity. I don't get the logic of thinking it's different to be tribalistic and then to be racist. If you're happy to judge him just hearing his name, whatever you call it, my friend, it's the same. Where there is no courage to cross this divide, where there is no faith to look deep inside and stop judging accents and surnames and dressing, this fire we're quenching will only keep burning. Which nation can stand dividing its people? How can one build on foundation so brittle if we cannot see ourselves in each other? This journey ends here. We're going no further. For when God made man, he gave him no facial marks. He did not make Gbagi, Oku, or Angas. As sure as a black man is just like a white man, no culture is older than being human. This is the truth. Until we accept it, our nation will stumble on its broken feet. The same things can bind us that drive us apart, for the wall and the bridge are both in the heart.
You get to see this in the way we interact with one another, with the businesses we have come to have and come to keep within our ecosystem and within the space we now claim to be our own, be it on a national level or be it on the state level or interstate level, or even between communities, or what many persons now call autonomous community. You get to look deep and understand that we have a problem. One of those ways you begin to realize how tribalism have eaten deep into our systems and into our personal life is to pay attention to the stories we've been told over time. Is to pay attention to the stories we've allowed our parents to influence us with. Is to ask ourselves if those stories indeed are true. What are the type of stories we've heard? The stories that the Ogoja man cannot be trusted because he's in and about the business of looking for a state. The fact that the Igbo man cannot be trusted because he's in and about money. The fact that the Yoruba man hates the Igbo man because of whatsoever reason that cannot really even be espoused clearly. Or the story that the Hausa betrayed the Igbos, which gave rise to the civil war. Or the fact that the man from Ibira is ordinarily not to be looked at or trusted because he, one way or the other, is almost at the crossroad of what divides the north the other way down from the south this way. And these stories continue. You get to hear, the idea of the man from Oyibo or Obibo as it used to be called. He is somebody that shouldn't really be trusted because during the war, a whole lot happened around that area alongside the involvement of someone like Ken Saro-Wiwa. The idea that the Niger Delta is ordinarily a thing that shouldn't concern the Igbos because to a large extent they caused their problems during the war. Or the fact that at the moment many persons in Rivers State still find it difficult to associate themselves with the Igbos because they felt if not for such close association, the harm that came down their path during the civil war in the 60s up until the 70s would not have befallen them. Same thing also, and the same sentiment also is shared by many persons from the Delta region, currently Delta State, up onto those in Edo, even to Benin the other way. We continue to repackage this story, we continue to rebrand these stories, we continue to hold on to these stories and tell ourselves, this is the way life is, or this is the way we have been living. This is the things we ordinarily have been told by our fathers, and these are the things we must continue to hold on to. And we tell ourselves these things without ordinarily wanting to do some introspections, without ordinarily wanting to look at things critically, without ordinarily wanting to look at our lives squarely and look at the fact that we indeed are at the crossroad, and if we don't pay close attention, the same thing that we are so scared of talking about is capable of destroying all of us, is capable of burying us, and is capable of making us suffer. And the misery such can ordinarily bring our way is still something we still don't really understand, and we cannot really even comprehend at the moment because we still think the effects are kind of far off from us, and it probably cannot consume us. But I want us to take a break and really look at the situations for what they really are. What is the current situation in Nigeria, and how can we ordinarily use a thing as our tribal differences to ordinarily harness a place like Nigeria? Because believe it or not, many persons have said in different times and in different generations that a place like Nigeria is not a thing, is not a country that was ordinarily supposed to be. We cannot continue to tell ourselves that story over and over and over again, and we just want that story to just end it. Those things are simple rhetorics, and what rhetorics do most of the time is just to win debates and help us to be persuasive in other arguments in our debates. And debate, as we've come to know through the years, sometimes have not been about truth, have just been about persuasion. But at the root of this problem is the idea of we trying to express ourselves, we trying to showcase who we are. And like Zeke will get to say, let us understand ourselves. Let us not put our differences away like I was suggested. Let us understand our differences. Let us understand what the Calabar man really wants. Let us understand who the Ogoja woman is in and of herself. Let us understand who the man from Kanuri ordinarily is. What are the things he likes? What are the things he doesn't like? What are the things he ordinarily can tolerate? What are the things he ordinarily would not be able to tolerate? And how should we go about these things? Because in and about these are the ways we ordinarily should come to look at our lives, because if we don't, we do ourselves a great disfavor, we do ourselves a great disservice by just ordinarily thinking the next man is as stupid as we ordinarily want to believe the next man to be as stupid. Because nobody is stupid, with all their differences, with all their problems, with all their peculiarities, with their cultures and their attributes and the history that have come down with them. Nobody ordinarily should just be written off. And so we can continue to pretend as much as we want to do. We can continue to tell ourselves the lies we want to tell ourselves, that, we are almost not as similar as we want to believe. But that would just be we lying to ourselves, because we know the truth. We are brothers and sisters. As much as Nigeria is concerned, as much as humanity is concerned, we are more similar than we want to think we are different. Beyond the tribal marks we get to put on our faces and the names we get to give ourselves and the cultures we come to hold and the different ways we eat and the different ways we sleep and the different ways we get to reproduce and the different ways we ordinarily come to raise our kids and raise ourselves and hold ourselves together within our little units and within our tribes, we are close to each other more than we think. So that if you look at the intermarital history between the Igbos and the Yorubas, you would just be in awe at the fact that sometimes what politics does to a group of people such as the Igbos and Yoruba is just a sad thing. Because at best, within the country, these two groups have come to intermarry more than almost any other groups within the country. And so why shouldn't we be thinking of harnessing such? Why shouldn't we be thinking of using such? Why shouldn't we be thinking of the fact that a thing like this can ordinarily be harnessed and used within our circle and offer to Africa what ordinarily we owe to Africa? Because I believe we as Nigerians owe Africa and the world a whole lot. It is not just enough to just bear the title and the name, the Giant of Africa or the most populous black nation. It's a thing we ordinarily must come to act out. It's a thing we ordinarily must come to show in our day-to-day life. It's a thing we ordinarily must come to look at and see how we can use our number for the greater good of Africa, for the greater good of the world, and from the very beginning, for the greater good of ourselves. We must see to it that we put down our fighting gears and we put down our boxing gloves and we put down the bigotry in our hearts and the different levels of ethnic sentiments, and see how we can ordinarily function as a people. Because at the heart of our situation, at the heart of our current reality as Nigerians, is the fact that we can live together. Is the fact that there's nothing that has shown that we ordinarily cannot live together. And one of the examples I get to give here is the fact that our sons and daughters get to travel abroad. They travel with little or no connection. All they do is get a visa, get a flight ticket, probably get a reservation or get a housing contract from wherever they are, and then they fly to those places or they travel to those countries they so desire to go, whether for study or for work or for greener pasture or just for vacation, with little or no fear as it concerns the fact that they might be met with racial discrimination, or you might want to say low-key tribalism. And they go to those places, they visit these countries of their choice, they go to these schools, they get opportunities they ordinarily would not get in Nigeria or in Africa, and then they succeed. They get scholarships, they get grants, they make friends, they make new acquaintances, they meet new people, they change their life by just taking a little bag, putting a few stuff with their certificates or sometimes with nothing, head to new land, just like Tracy Chapman's fast car, with the desire and the hope that something new can come out. And most of the times, against all human limitations and against all racial discrimination, they survive. They make sense of their existence. They don't face the level of sentiments and reservations and the things they get to face back home, the things we get to face and the things we get to cause back home. Doesn't that tell us something? Doesn't that tell us that we need to work on a whole lot of things within ourselves? Doesn't that tell us that we ordinarily need to look at our lives and look at our lives squarely? because we might continue to speak and think everything is all right until we begin to look at things like elections, until we begin to look at things like appointments, until we begin to look at things like elections and how people are elected into different places, from the appointment of VCs, vice chancellors, and chancellors of different universities in different parts of the country, up onto the appointment of commissioners and ministers and different persons that get to represent Nigeria in diplomatic missions. You get to understand how sad our situation has become. So that a particular president comes into power or assumes office and overhauls almost a whole group of persons from a particular tribe, or just avoids them entirely and then bring his own people. I'm not saying you shouldn't work with people you trust, but where is the thing like meritocracy? Where is the thing like trying to strike a balance so that a group of persons don't really get to feel out of touch with reality and the things ordinarily happening in a country such as ours? You look at things like admission, and you get to see that we've been partitioned into different things. We've been made to look at our lives from different perspectives too much. Things like catchment area, things like local government of origin, things like state of origin, things like these are the things that ordinarily come to hinder things like meritocracy, things like rightful qualification, and those who ordinarily merit to get something. And so you begin to ask yourself, for how long are we going to continue preaching a thing like federal character, as opposed to the fact that we ordinarily too should come to work at our unity, so that we stop really focusing on our differences and begin to look at the fact that we as a nation have to come together to form goals and form visions and form desires that ordinarily should meet the 21st century's demand of globalization and the economic strides we ordinarily have to push forward. Because as much as we want to continue to stay in this Hobbesian state where we just fight for our survival and the survival of our kin, we do ourselves no good. We do ourselves little or no good at all. Because in the long run and in the grand scheme of things, we ordinarily must come to love ourselves. We ordinarily must come to accept the reality and the fact that we can be one, because we are humans and we can adapt, so we can succeed together.